Hi, I'm Charlie Cullen, International Artistic Director for Toni & Guy and Label M. And we're here today in the London Academy shooting our latest step-by-step for our collection, The Legacy. The Legacy is in tribute to the late Tony Mascolo. One thing that I've always admired about Tony is that he treated everyone within his business like family. And that's what we are as one art team, not just work colleagues or friends, but family. Within The Legacy, it's split into 3 sections. We're working with vintage, contemporary, and also creative. Now, these are 3 elements that we cover within our men's course here in the Academy. We look at vintage from inspiration from elements of the past, contemporary from what we're seeing currently in men's hair trends, and also we look at creative is where we're pushing the boundaries within men's hairdressing, looking at Men's Fashion Week, for example. Within that, we also have 3 subsections. So we're looking at perimeters, interiors, and also details. And today I'm going to be working with contemporary perimeters. To give you an overview for my look, we're working with a mid-fade, working down to skin, with a textured fringe and textured interior. So let's have a look at the step-by-step.
A higher horseshoe has been placed to create a narrower shape along the curvature of the head. The zigzag sectioning will allow the disconnection between the fringe and the layering to be seamless. Starting through the sides, a horizontal layer is cut. The hair is held at a high elevation and cut following the shape of the horseshoe. Starting from the front hairline and working towards the centre back. It's held at a high elevation to create a soft guideline, which will later be used to scissor over comb. As he approaches the back of the head, the elevation is held lower to maintain length and weight at the crown. The same technique is repeated on the other side, starting from the front hairline and working towards the centre back. The hair is then dried off so that the fading technique can be done by working with the hair in its natural state. A 1.5 guard is placed on the clippers and used to remove the excess length beneath the horizontal layer. The movement of the wrist is important in blending the shape gradually from the perimeter to the weight line that was created along the curvature of the head. A comb is used to stop the clipper work from going too high, but also to push the head down into an unnatural position, so that once the comb is removed, the weight line will appear softer. A zero guideline is placed around the head, slightly curving lower towards the back. The zero line is parallel to the graduation created through the fingers. Creating these parallel lines allows the fade to progress at even heights on both the left and right side. By flicking the clipper lightly when placing in the zero line, it will make it easier to blend at a later date. The head is tilted in the opposite direction to make the flicking motion easier and more effortless. The foil shaver is then used to take it down to skin. You can see that one foil is being used more lightly to create a soft bald and flick away to almost blend the line, whereas the two foils are used to remove maximum stubble on the scalp, working with and against the grain to achieve a totally smooth and clean result. The bald line is then removed by the trimmers. The corner of the blade is used to remove small dark areas so that you can be more precise rather than use the whole span of the blade. Then, using the clippers on a 0.5, a parallel line is created above the zero line. The zero line is then removed by adjusting the tapering arm to a 0.25. Using a fade brush, the small hairs are removed so it's clearer to see what hair remains. By placing a number 1 guard on, another line is placed above the 0.5. Each time he works 2 steps forward and then 1 back to remove any untidy areas and make sure that each step is perfected before moving on. The 0.5 line is then removed by using a half guard and adjusting the tapering arm to a 0.75. The mid-fade is a key element within the technique. Fades have progressed each season, and a mid-fade allows you to see that transition from light to dark. Finally, a number 1 guard is put on and the tapering arm is adjusted to 1.5, then 1.25, fading down towards the 1 line and blending through. A scissor over comb technique is used to clean between the clipper work and the horizontal layer. Whilst the use of clippers is still a huge part of barbering techniques, scissor over comb remains an essential part of Toni & Guy's philosophy and approach to male hairdressing. It's this combination of the scissor over comb technique and clipper work that creates a tailored look to each individual. Using the trimmers, he details the hairline through the front. This can be done to suitability. The fringe area is cut by taking vertical sections and holding the hair at 90 degrees. The hair is then point cut rounded to the head. Parallel sections are taken and the hair is held at 90 degrees and the guideline is followed. The same method is followed until the section is completed. The fringe is isolated so that the disconnection is not disturbed when layering. He visually checks the fringe. The length through the fringe area is detailed using a razor. Visually, razor cutting creates an imperfect texture and a contemporary perimeter. Through the top, parallel vertical sections are taken and point cut. guide is placed in through the profile and elevated at 90 degrees to over-direct it. It's cut rounded following the shape of the head at the crown and cut square through the front area. The rounded off crown contrasts with the square shape through the top. The length is then checked visually by placing the head down towards the fringe to see the texture. Each section is worked on base to follow the roundness of the head shape. This creates a softer layering shape and restricts the amount of hair that overhangs the sides. Working with the point cutting technique throughout the isolated top section allows him to reduce weight and length simultaneously. In this case, because of the thickness of the model's hair, the method will create a softer texture which can be manipulated with the help of Label M finishing product later on. Whilst the hair is still wet, the Label Men thickening tonic is worked throughout. The hair was then blow dried flat to the head using a Label M cushion brush. Using a Toni & Guy signature texturizing technique, channel cutting, he works through the hair by slowly opening and closing the blade of the scissors in the direction that the hair naturally falls. The channel cutting technique is fantastic for reducing weight and creating separation and flatness. The hair is moved around and checked visually. At the crown area, he takes horizontal sections and works with deep parallel point cutting to promote the roundness created by the cutting technique. To finish, the Label Men Max Wax is worked into his hands and then applied from side to side to accentuate the texture that was created by the channel cutting technique. This is the completed men's contemporary perimeter technique for the Legacy collection. The contemporary perimeter technique is a short crop that's worked with a mid-fade taken down to skin, plus a soft textured fringe and layered top. The understated styling keeps the focus on the perimeter, which is the faded sides and razored fringe. There's still a lot of fading within men's hair trends, but what's progressed is the height where the fade starts. A mid-height fade with an undone finish makes the technique fresh.